Tonight, a major debate over footage showing an SA policeman firing repeated shots at an injured kangaroo in Whyalla, and one of Port Augusta's most iconic landmarks set for demolition tomorrow.
This is Southern Cross News with Abby Donaldson.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. There's been a mixed reaction to a shocking video showing a police officer shooting an injured kangaroo in Whyalla. Police are investigating the matter, which has sparked debate online. John Hunt has more.
Euthanizing an injured animal is no easy task, which is why police have the authority to do it. However, one police officer's efforts in Whyalla are under scrutiny, with questions being raised after a video surfaced online, and a warning the contents of this video may be confronting. The ordeal, which was posted on Facebook, shows a police officer cornering the roo after reportedly being contacted by a wildlife rescue group that the animal had a broken leg. He then opens fire 7 times, attempting to put the animal out of its misery. With the kangaroo seemingly slow to react to the bullets and trying to stay on its feet. The incident occurred at Stuart High School. The Education Department confirmed it happened during school hours, but says the task was carried out away from students. SAPOL confirmed they're undertaking a routine investigation, but stressed putting down animals is a difficult task. An animal expert had sympathised with the officer's predicament, but told us their biggest error was not clearing surroundings, so he could privately carry out the procedure. Social media is divided on the issue, with support and criticism of the officer's actions. Investigations continue.
Many residents in the Eastern Eyre Peninsula woke up in the early hours of this morning to the tremors of an earthquake. Geoscience Australia recorded the 3.7 magnitude earthquake north of Cowal just before 2:30 a.m.
Interestingly, the 7th earthquake that's occurred in the last year in that area, and there was one back in July, 1st of July, with the same magnitude, just near Cleve.
40 people reported the quake to the Geoscience website, with residents as far as Cleve, Cowal and Whyalla waking up to their houses shaking. Discussions between Nyrstar management and workers at the Port Pirie smelter site have ended, with union representatives leaving with more questions than answers. It comes after a $900 million bailout for the struggling metal giant by the company's biggest shareholder, Trafigura.
It's a confusing time for the workers at Port Pirie's lead smelter, with many feeling they've been left in the dark. Talks between union representatives and the Vice President of Nyrstar via a phone call were less productive than desired.
Unfortunately, out of that meeting, the 4 unions believe that we came away with more questions than answers.
Unions have voiced concerns over elements of the restructuring of the plant which may compromise occupational health and safety practices.
We have concerns that they haven't engaged with the workforce through that process appropriately, and potentially haven't also engaged with the health and safety reps on site as well.
Coinciding with this week's discussions was a surprise announcement by Nyrstar that one of its biggest investors, Trafigura, would be providing close to $900 million to the financially struggling company. Conditionally, the money cannot be used to repay debts, meaning that the $291 million owed to South Australia will not be returned under the deal. However, the cash injection by one of the world's biggest metal traders will strengthen Nyrstar's liquidity position. It's a positive lifeline for Port Pirie smelter as well. If Nyrstar goes under, Trafigura will take over, which ultimately ensures long-term security for the smelter's future.
Trafigura, who is their major shareholder, 25% shareholder, have extended an extra line of credit.
Dominic Beaton, Southern Cross News.
The Darling River Action Group has voiced their concerns about potential increases to Broken Hill water prices. The group say prices should stay where they are and only be adjusted for inflation.
Broken Hill is a city which won't slump to its hands and knees.
It really lowers the respect of the town, lowers the respect of every single person that lives in Broken Hill, that we should have to beg the state government, whether it be Labor or the coalition, that they continue to subsidise us or the town goes under.
Those comments from the Darling River Action Group come after a public forum was held by the Independent Pricing Tribunal this week. IPART decides the city's water prices for the next 4 years, and the purpose of the meeting is to receive feedback from locals. One submission, Essential Water, proposing a $93 price rise per customer per year.
Mainly to upgrade our infrastructure. So although the Murray River supply pipeline coming into Broken Hill will provide a more reliable supply, we still need to replace the Will Street sewage treatment plant, which was constructed in 1939. It's reached the end of its useful life and it is dire need of replacement.
The costs of the Murray River pipeline won't be a factor in IPART's decision, with the state government covering its cost until 2022. But Mr Kennedy says Broken Hill shouldn't have to beg future governments to pick up the bill every 4 years. His solution is simple.
The Blair government has to now immediately legislate that the pipeline from the Murray to the Micah Street plant will always be paid for by the state government, and then we will pay the cost, as Essential Water is doing now, cost to deliver it to each house once it gets here.
IPART will release its draft price proposal in April. Patrick Ryanke, Southern Cross News.
One of Port Augusta's most iconic landmarks is set to fall to the ground, with the 200-metre high power station stack planned for demolition tomorrow. Flinders Power is encouraging the public to watch the event, but have measures in place to make sure all goes to plan.
From the road or from the sky, it's the iconic structure which helps you identify Port Augusta. But in just over 12 hours, the 200-metre power station stack will fall to the ground.
It's the landmark that everybody sees, so we're pretty conscious of the fact that it is going to change the landscape, but we're looking forward to getting that the last part of the project completed.
This will be the final demolition of the old power station since it closed in 2015. 278 small holes and 3 larger holes have been drilled into the stack, which will be filled with explosives.
It's about 60 kilograms worth of explosives in total.
When the explosives go off, the larger holes will help pivot the direction of the fall, which is planned to fall southeast towards Wilmington. Although they're confident all will go to plan, Flinders Power have put contingency measures in place, like dropping and redirecting the nearby power lines that supply the Eyre Peninsula.
While we're demolishing in the opposite direction, we didn't want to take any chances or any risks.
The big blast is due to begin at 8 a.m. and 500-metre public exclusion zones around the site are in place. But they encourage all the community to head to Shack Road to catch the best glimpse of the fall.
There will be appropriate speed restrictions and authorities out there, safest place, best viewing platform.
Garth Burley, Southern Cross News.
Still to come tonight, the festive season kicks off for some very special kids in Port Lincoln. Welcome back. Renewable energy group Renew Power has been contracted to build a 5-megawatt solar farm in Port Pirie. The $8 million project will be one of the largest solar farms in the state.
A brighter and greener future for Port Pirie. The 15-hectare farm will be constructed just south of the city on vacant pastoral land donated to the project from a local farmer. Empower's recently built farm in Peterborough employed more than 20 workers from the region, and it's hoped a similar number of contractors will be sourced for the Port Pirie site.
We have now proceeded into the construction phase of the Pirie Solar Farm, which is just outside of Port Pirie.
This farmland just off Wandera Road will house dozens of solar panels powered by the sun. Well, maybe not today, but they will generate more than 10,000 megawatt hours yearly. Coinciding with the council's recent solar initiative, Port Pirie is setting itself up to be a state leader in renewable energy. In 2017, South Australia had the most expensive power bills in the world. The new plant is another step towards diversifying the energy market and hopefully lowering the price of power.
At the moment, we are selling the power into the national electricity market, but the intention is to enter into an agreement with a South Australian business.
The site will be up and running in the first half of 2019. Dominic Beaton, Southern Cross News.
BHP is this week marking 30 years since the Olympic Dam mine was first opened. The company held a family day in Roxby Downs to commemorate the occasion. Food, music and even a classic car display were on show as workers and their families joined in the celebrations. The night was concluded with a dazzling fireworks display that lit up the sky. Olympic Dam is the largest mine in the state and employs over 3,000 people, hundreds of whom call the Upper Spencer Gulf home. Broken Hill Police say they'll be out in full force this weekend, targeting the region's dangerous drivers. Operation Compliance will be in effect across all of New South Wales from tomorrow.
Doing the wrong thing? There's nowhere to hide. The statewide Operation Compliance will target distracted drivers and those under the influence. Anything from not wearing a seatbelt to driving with drugs in your system, police will be on the lookout for.
Well, midnight tonight, I do believe. It targets restraint offences, seatbelts, mobile phones, and we'll also be doing random breath testing and random drug testing.
In the past week, local coppers have recorded several motorists drug driving. Officers say drivers need to know every patrol car can test for alcohol and illicit substances.
It's disappointing to see drivers persisting in driving, getting behind the wheel whilst under the influence of illicit drugs. And it's almost as big an issue as driving under the influence of alcohol.
When it comes to distractions, mobile phones are still a big danger. Get caught using one in New South Wales and you could lose 5 demerit points and pay a hefty fine.
Touching your phone while you are driving a motor vehicle is against the rules. Hands-free, Bluetooth, if you can operate the phone completely hands-free without laying your hand on the phone, that is acceptable.
Operation Compliance will run across the whole weekend. Patrick Ryanke, Southern Cross News.
The festive season kicked off for some very special kids in Port Lincoln today. The children's charity Variety invited Santa to pay a visit to local sick and disadvantaged children.
Big smiles, giant bear hugs and a boogie on the dance floor. It was a giant room of fun for more than 80 local kids joining in to celebrate Christmas.
We're here to give the kids of Lower Eyre Peninsula a fun Christmas party and a party that they may normally miss out on with special needs, etc. So it's good for them to have a big show where they're comfortable.
The kids were able to dress up for the camera and have their faces painted, and it was all made possible by the children's charity Variety, putting on the 5th local Christmas show.
They do an amazing job for all the people with special needs, learning disabilities. Couldn't have asked for something better from them. Put on a great show.
It's very special.
But the biggest excitement of all was when the man in the red suit appeared, filling the children with joy as he sang along to Christmas carols.
Jingle bell rock, jingle bell ring, and jingle bells.
Very special when Santa walks in the door. They all love him and they're very excited.
With some knowing exactly what they want from Father Christmas.
A transformer!
And with just 32 sleeps until Christmas Day, there's only one thing left to say.
Merry Christmas, everyone!
Casey Treloar, Southern Cross News.
Just gorgeous. Stay with us after the break. We'll have fish and tips. And in the weather, after wild winds lash the state, conditions are expected to calm down over the coming days. I'll have all the local weather details soon. Welcome back. Now it's time to see what's biting around the Gulf.
Welcome another week around the Gulf fishing tips from Port Pirie. Yellowfin whiting time is what we're looking at the moment. The season's just turned. We've seen them on the beaches from Maroondah Island right through to Barrows Beach. You can wade out up into your knees and try the prawns that you get from the supermarket. They should work pretty well. The weather will warm over the weekend. I think it might take a little while for them to come around, but have a crack anyway. Blues from the crabs, as we reported in the last couple of weeks, is still there. You're not getting your quotas, but the crabs are full, so you can get your first taste of crab through that season. And if you're starting to get a little bit worried about what perhaps else you could try, anything that's on the top surface feeding is the way to go, from Tommy's and salmon and all that sort of stuff. So have a bit of a try. We are in a crossover period.
G'day and welcome to this week's fishing tips from Port Augusta, Jewel North. Well, November's certainly here. It's been some really wild weather, also up and down with the temperatures, 40 degrees one day, 22 the next. Good thing is with these big blows, the bottom feeders will start coming to bite. Try for flathead along the shacks, along the beaches, silver whiting, high tides and also low tides. along the shacks and also out in the middle banks as well. There are some crabs still nice and big and full of meat, and some nice razor fish available as well. That's all we have from the Jewel North. Now it's over to Whyalla.
Land-based, there's been some great size yellowfin whiting, some good bag limits of fish coming down from the Cowlitz Landing zones. On the right-hand side of the fence line has been the best place to fish. Most of the anglers have been hitting their limits there as well. Down towards Point Lady, there's been some nice squid coming along from out in front of the Sandhills. A little bit further north, out around to Becky Point, there's been some good snook coming off the rocks. And if you're working the soft plastics, there's been some really nice flathead picked up along the rocks there. For the boat fishermen, again, the crabs are starting to move in, with most boats hitting good numbers. Still a lot of small ones amongst those as well. A few whiting have been caught in most of the ground.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Well, the weather's been pretty crazy over the past few days, but before the weather hit, there were a few reports coming in. Blue crabs continue to improve in the local bays. They're still not thick yet, but some crabs are being caught, which is good. There's also been a few kingfish cruising around in our local bays. There's been a pack of kings down along the town foreshore. Those fish have been around the 90 centimetres to a metre mark, so they're not bad fish. There's been a few whiting caught down in the proper, also up at Louth Bay, and down around Thistle has been the best 3 places. There's been some schools of salmon still patrolling the south coast when the weather permits. Well, that's all for this week. We'll see you again with more fishing tips next week.
Let's check out what the forecast has in store for us. Well, after some wild winds, dust storms and power outages in parts of the Gulf, conditions did come down a little in most centres today, with the odd shower here and there. It was still blowing a gale in Broken Hill. 21 was the top there. On the satellite, clouds scattered across SA near an intense low is causing scattered showers, small hail and a few thunderstorms. Some of these showers and storms are heavy about the peninsula's hills and ranges, leading to brief flash flooding, cloud and the odd light shower in the north. On the waters tomorrow, southerly shifting southwesterly winds up to 15 knots, big seas at 4 metres with a south-southwesterly swell, and sunrise will be at 6:04 tomorrow morning. Looking like mostly fine conditions to end the week, with temps in the high teens to low 20s for all districts. Port Pirie and Broken Hill 22 the max. Some showers forecast for Saturdays. It warms up slightly too. Cleve 25 the max. Mostly fine conditions on Sunday and Monday as well, with the odd sprinkle. Port Lincoln 21 on Monday and Woodnut 27. Again, warming up on Saturday with the odd shower forecast. Port Augusta 31 the top. Lovely conditions for the rest of your weekend and into Monday. And Port Pirie warming up to 28 degrees for Saturday, with a shower here or there over the weekend. Broken Hill looking like gorgeous sunny conditions on Sunday and Monday as temps soar back up into the 30s. And that's all the local news this Thursday. Thanks for your company. Good night.